A lot is expected on films that supposedly exist purely to answer the question, why? Why did these people do such evil things? And though yeah, it's important for a movie named after one of the most iconic villains in cinematic history to do that, in my opinion, that's not all it should do. I also don't believe that a movie should be tied down to a continuity that is 60 years old. Yeah, it should be connected to it and respect it, but I also think it should take those connections and re-knit them together. To me, Maleficent, for example, failed to do so because they lost the essence of who Maleficent was, the mistress of all evil. Instead, she was painted as a victim. Her wings were cut off, so she spent the rest of the movie wanting revenge. Quite rightly so, but did this have to be a Maleficent story? No, I made a short review for Maleficent a few years ago, so you can watch that, so let's get back to this. Yeah, Disney is throwing its toys out of the pram for not getting the rights to make a movie based on the stage musical Wicked, that tells the story of the Wizard of Oz from the perspective of the Wicked Witch, portraying her as a victim of bigotry who embraces her stereotype and uses it as a weapon against her tormentors and to stand up for injustice. The reason Wicked is so successful and so well loved is that though they made the audience connect with Elphaba and made us relate to her and her plight, they also stayed true to who she was in the Wizard of Oz, a terrifying, intimidating powerhouse of a woman. And to me, this was where Maleficent failed and Cruella succeeded. With Cruella, I can feel that they are going for more of a eulogy type story. Yeah, the whole Dalmatians killed my mother thing was rather comical and meme-worthy when it's shown out of context, as it seems to demonize the breed. But this movie was not about explaining why Cruella would eventually skin puppies to make dogskin coats. To me, this shows who Cruella was before this would happen, showing how unhinged she was and the potential she had to becoming the maniacal heiress that we see in the animated movie and in the live-action films. The movie is narrated by Cruella herself, a possible nod to how the 101 Dalmatians movie from the 1970s was narrated in part by Pongo. Though some may complain that the leash connecting this movie to 101 Dalmatians is snapped off, I think this is very intentional, but there are plenty of nods to the animated movies and the live action movies too. It's give the devil his due story. Similarities to Joker can be pulled here because it's in the same vein, an exploration into the psychology of why a person goes down this spiral of insanity. But this movie to me was more about Defiance, a movie about two women fighting for empowerment in the 1970s, a time for glamour inspired with a 1940s flair with a punk edginess that was about ripping and tearing the confined rigidness of women's fashion at the time, having it explode, showing that even trash can make a bolder statement than gold. The live action retelling from the 90s was much more about diving into the relationship between Anita and Cruella, which I think is echoed here between Estella and the Baroness. Now, this has been said already, but this was very much The Devil Wears Prada plotline, where the assistant shadows the star, emulates them, and eventually becomes exactly like them. But actually, to me, Estella was always like the Baroness, and for those who have seen the movie will know exactly why. Now, the whole being born with black and white hair thing, yeah, I've seen a few people complain about this, how it would have been more of a statement if she had deliberately dyed her hair to be this way. And although, yeah, I do agree with this in part because it's kind of like when the Joker paints his face for war, I do also think that this movie was trying to say that Estella was born as Cruella and had to bury her real self and hide her hair, which may be the result of a form of poliosis. Poliosis is when a person is born with or develops a patch of white or grey hair while otherwise maintaining their natural hair colour, which in this case for Cruella was a dark brown, almost black. Though the movie didn't state outright she was born with this condition, I think it also shows that she chose to embrace this abnormality and use it as a weapon to shock and amaze. If this was artificially done, with the hair dye bottle for example, I don't think it would have been as dramatic or personal. Also, it was a vital plot point for the movie for the Baroness to know who Cruella actually was, while leaving the audience and Estella herself in the dark. I like how it also portrayed Cruella and Estella as two different personalities. It kind of reminded me of how Cruella and Ella were portrayed in 102 Dalmatians. Although that was far more cartoony and didn't really respect, mental health very much. But it was still an enjoyable movie to me. touching on the whole Jekyll and Hyde kind of story. And I kind of was worried that this was where this movie was going to go, and I'm so glad it didn't go down that route. Overall, I think this movie was successful and showed its audience far more respect than I was expecting it to. Yeah, it has its problems in how it doesn't exactly straight up answer the question why she does what she would do later on, or even if she did. I guess that's the question we will have to answer for ourselves. I'm Mad Munchkin. Stay creative.